Brad, it's good to chat again, man.
Thanks for having me.
I think this might be the first video, or did we do video before?
I think it's our third.
Yeah, but I don't know if
We
we did
we
video before.
no, maybe not though. Maybe not. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. But how you doing, man? Anyway, you good? Today, just for anybody listening, it's the inauguration of Biden, right?
It
That's a big
is
deal, I assume.
pretty big deal, yeah.
But
Opinions are
I can
50-50,
see
so
your Confederate flags in the back there, so you're obviously a Trump fan. I'm only
no.
joking. Yeah, he has links to Ireland here, so apparently, I think a lot
Ooh.
of presidents kind of jump. Not Trump, Biden.
Okay,
Um,
okay. I'm like,
yeah,
hmm.
I don't think it really makes a huge difference for me, like who the president of the U.S. is in reality.
True.
Maybe some
Yeah.
foreign policy stuff, um, but I'm sure it'll make a lot of difference. Now, I don't really know much, but hopefully there's not going to be too much riots. It's only lunchtime there, so maybe we still have a few more hours.
Hopefully not. You
Yeah.
never know though. It is America.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So for anybody who hasn't heard you on the podcast before, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Brett Freeman, bathtub on Instagram. I am a WNBF professional bodybuilder, and I get pretty heavy in the off season, which is kind of what ties this podcast in today.
Yeah. Yeah. So the topic we want to talk about today was a little bit about like how fat, I suppose, or how much body weight. So that could be body fat or body weight, I suppose. You need to get above stage weight to make progress because this, I guess, it stemmed from just some posts on social media and just differing in opinions. Um, and I just want to get your thoughts on like, well, first of all, what's your stage weight, and then what kind of weight are you at right now? I guess you're about, well, it's how long is it since the last show? It's probably been over a year. Wow,
Yeah, year and 2 months.
wow,
Yeah,
doesn't seem
but
like that long, but yeah,
it does not. It feels like last year still. It's
yeah.
oof. But I compete as a bantamweight. So in 2019, I got down to 143 pounds for the off season. Every single contest season, I always say that I am going to stay leaner, but history kind of always repeats itself, and my body weight just naturally tends to fluctuate back up into the high 160s, low 170s, which is what I've come to realize my set point is. That's just where things just start clicking. Um, in the past, uh, I have tried to stay leaner, but I have noticed that so many negatives that kind of come into play while I do diet start popping out, and they still remain apparent when I try to stay lean, which I've noticed as soon as I start dipping down into the 150s, so about 10 to 15 pounds above stage weight, that's when all of, the physiological adaptations start to slowly trickle in, despite trying to subside them with um, strategies to kind of, mitigate them from happening since they do happen. And the way I look at off seasons and contest preps are, if you're in an off season or improvement season and you're still food focused, using baby spoons and baby forks to still eat your meals, or you're relying heavily on food volume and manipulating, the size of your meal for satiety purposes, I think you might be a little too lean. So what I suggest for people that I coach and just for myself in general, and also what I try to promote on social media since it's so deceiving, is a body composition that you feel best at. It might not necessarily be your best look, kind of like how 3DMJ and Alberto Nunez says, um, and just hanging out there and just watching performance and training trickle up.
Yeah. And how has your body weight in the off season changed over the seasons? Because you've had, a couple of seasons. Has it Has it
Yeah, I think
increased or has it reduced?
it's honestly stayed the same, which I mean, it might be due to being a smaller individual because I'm only 5'6", 5'7". But every single season, 2009, it was 165, 2011, 170, 2017, 170, 2019, I pushed up a little bit higher, so 175, 180. And then this year, since exiting the stage in 2019, it fluctuated from 165 to 175. And I noticed over time, since I do take more of an intuitive approach during my off season, that um, body composition looks a lot different compared to previous off seasons, which um, I suppose it's anecdote, but I, I I don't think body fat needs to get pushed up so extremely high. I think there's like a middle ground for where you kind of perform best. And I've noticed that when I fluctuate from 165 to 175, that's where performance markers are the highest, energy levels are the highest. There's no food focus, and I'm just overall a healthier person to be around.
Yeah. And do you think that like for most people who aren't like extremely advanced, they're probably going to be wanting pushing their body weight up in the off season? Do you
Yes.
think that like would you want to kind of stay a little bit leaner initially so that you can push through that, or do you get like would you recommend that you get to that point where you're feeling good first and then pushing from there, because obviously that's going to be on top of.
Yeah. I think for a beginner, I know it's kind of back and forth between if a beginner is skinny
Yeah.
fat, let's say, if they should bulk or if they should cut first. I think if they cut first, they're just going to be skin and bones. So I would recommend slowly pushing body weight up, not in like the dreamer bulk sense where you just get overly sloppy and drink a gallon of milk a day. But I do think they should push their body weight up in order to see, training performance increase. And I also think it'll kind of nip in the bud spinning their wheels and dealing with just issues that normally kind of come along when you're overly just focused on staying lean.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed in my contest seasons, I did like a first photo shoot when I was like 19,
Mhm.
so 10 was it 10 years ago, maybe about 10 or 9 years ago. And I remember I didn't even get that lean. I got to like 182. I think, granted, like in 2019, I was 175. So like 10 years ago, I was
Oh.
182. Yeah. So it was the leanest I'd ever been because I wasn't ever really lean. It's like a photo
Yeah.
shoot. And like, I kind of like rebounded because I didn't feel like normal, like, the way you just eat, like you eat quite a bit after and you kind of settle at a new body weight. I kind of settled at a body weight, even though I didn't really get that lean. And then I've kind of found that the same thing. Like the leaner I got over the years, like almost the longer it took, or the more weight it almost took, felt for me to kind of feel the new normal, or like traditionally for me after competition as well. I don't go crazy, but I'm done with dieting. And I'm not
Yep.
like eating hamburgers and stuff every day, but I'm just eating like so that I feel like a normal human and just like not stuffing myself. But obviously, it's going to be a surplus, right?
Mhm.
And most of the time, that kind of levels out. Like obviously, a year after my last show, now I don't eat like I don't like stuff myself, and my body weight's
Yeah.
pretty much the same all the time. But I found like the last season I did was the leanest I'd got before. And I noticed that it just was longer before I actually was no like felt like, well,
Yep.
actually I don't have any weird body fat distribution here. I'm I'm feeling and sleeping normal, and I don't have any kind of food focus whatsoever. Like I'm not like
Mhm.
thinking about, oh, I can't wait to get a burger, or I can't wait to eat some chocolate or something. Like it
Mhm.
seems quite far fetched now to me, but that's the reality of it afterwards. I remember the last show we went out for food with Eric and his wife and Jeff and his wife, and I got like them pick and mix things where you like shovel it.
Yep.
It was like something like $25 worth of. It was like about 2 kilograms, and I ate about like the next day. My face was like bloated. I have a picture
Mm-hmm.
because it looks like I gained about 10 pounds. Um,
Oh my God.
but yeah, I didn't go crazy for ages. But I find that the leaner I get, it's almost like the more it takes for me to recover. Have you ever experienced anything similar?
Yeah, and I know it differs. I think it was Berto that mentioned that with the recovery diet that he normally feels normal after a month or two, whereas I've always noticed that it takes 3 to 6 months. But again, I've noticed that the leaner I do get each season, the longer it does take post show in order for things to start actually normalizing again. So 2011, it took quite a long time because I was a teenager. 2011, it was a little bit easier. And then in 2017 and 2019, where I got substantially leaner, it again took another 3 to 6 months to have everything feel 100% normal. I mean, food focus kind of disappeared after the initial 3 months, but sleep, body fat distribution, which just like you, for me, it's terrible. It's not good for social media.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It either goes straight to the face or it goes to the abs midsection. And even training doesn't really start clicking or feeling normal until I want to say at least 4 plus months post show. And
Yeah,
thankfully we had COVID and lockdowns happen 4 months to into our post show period, so that was fun.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think this. Yeah, I think one that kind of thing to be aware is that it's different for people who are doing like mini cuts and like just dieting down
oh
to
yeah,
get lean versus like there's a point where your diet, it's commonly known amongst a lot of people is like the set point, and when you get below that, then it's like you're starting to like you really need to get back to that level before you can actually make any progress. You need to gain some fat, and I think that's why like getting shredded, unless you really need to get shredded for a show or something or a shoot, you shouldn't really do it because you're going to mess things up, and you can almost I just believe this, you can almost rebound further. um and no matter how kind of controlled you are or how kind of much what would be the word, say like dedication or discipline that you have,
yeah.
it's still like you still don't feel right, I think, if you get super lean. So
Mm-mm.
and I think again it's going to be individual, right? So
Yep.
like I do feel pretty normal at this body fat, but I wouldn't really want to be getting much heavier. But I have had clients who are like, you can see they're like obliques, and
Yeah.
they're just naturally lean, and they they feel fat when that's like towards the low end of my body fat set point. So I think it is individual, but I don't think I do think that like certainly staying too lean is really sandbagging your results for most people. And one like massive anecdote is like a lot of guys who are like pretty big have like spent a time of their life like being fairly overweight. Now that's just
Yep.
a pure anecdote, I mean, but like I do see that with a lot of guys.
No, definitely. I mean, the mass article that came out in regards to football players and sumo wrestlers and athletes that uh, have gone a little bit higher in body fat tend to accumulate more size, and we have seen it anecdotally in natural bodybuilding. I mean, the most quote unquote, I suppose, genetically gifted athletes are the ones that have kind of gone through those dirty bulks. I mean, I really feel like it helped potentiate Alberto's um,
Hmm.
career. I'm not career, but like competitive edge because he did get up pretty high in body fat. I know Eric Helms did originally. Uh, Bob Waterhouse, a really
Yeah,
really good natural pro, he
he
tends
gets
to get
very fat.
he is very fat. um,
Lee
and there's
Priest, another good natural pro.
oh yeah, the KFC bucket. Ronnie Coleman. I mean, it is definitely genetic. I feel in regards to just set points. that people are able to hang out. And same goes with body fat distribution. Some may have obliques, abs year round, but their lower body might be 15+% body fat. Um, I think of the WNBF champion, Kendall, who is blessed genetically, stays pretty lean year round, but he's pretty far away from stage weight, I would say. And he probably functions pretty normally and is able to gain muscle. So I think it does definitely depend on the person. But for your average, I suppose, average genetic trainee that is going to the gym, when they see all these pictures of people that are always lean and gaining muscle, they think that they have to do that and live that, quote unquote lifestyle in order to
Yeah.
feel a part
Yeah.
of
It's
this
it's
weird
it's
cult.
definitely something that I think that held me back for a while. Like trying to stay lean, but not like really lean, but leaner than what I was like productive at. And during my like early 20s, and then trying to be lean for a holiday or whatever all the time, every time I had a holiday. So like and then what would happen is you'd bulk pretty fast, or like just kind of eat too much food for too short a period, and then you've already all of a sudden gained 10 pounds of fat, and then you want to kind of cut it back, and then it's like in this perpetual cycle. And I think that's like definitely a struggle for a lot of people, and I guess it's on your goal, right? So we're like, you and I are competitive natural bodybuilders. We're not people who just want to be like look like we're competitors. It's our goal is to be better the
Yeah,
next time
it's
stage. It's different.
yeah, it's a little bit different. And for us, I mean the vast majority of natural bodybuilders kind of have, weekly rate of gains, monthly rate of gains. And for beginners, intermediates, and sometimes advanced, with advanced with advanced individuals, I would consider you advanced since you do compete at a very high level. um I feel like the rate of gain to which that you and I need on a monthly basis is a lot less comparatively to others that are just starting out in the sport. So they might have to gain at a faster rate in order to gain muscle and improve strength and hypertrophy. Um, but just like yourself, when I was younger, 19, 21, it was an all or nothing kind of mindset. It was, I would have to bulk aggressively at 2 pounds a week, 8 pounds a month. And then after 4 months, I'm like 30 pounds up, and it's like, crap, time to yo-yo diet, mini cut for 2 weeks, and just continuously spin my wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the rate of gain is like a tricky one, because like even newbies or newer lifters who've never really done a proper bulk, like they could gain at a faster rate, but again, if they don't have like the genetics, I suppose, to
Bingo.
capitalize on that, you could just be gaining a lot more fat. So it's definitely difficult, and then it's not like there's an exact answer, because I think even like the research of that kind of goal, or that weight of rate gain, which I think it was a paper by Juma Araki and Eric Helms and Peter Fishin, and off season whatever um, recommendations for bodybuilders or something. I think it was in that paper anyway. But the papers they looked at, there's obviously a sample of people within in those studies. So it's not like there's not like thousands of people where they're like looking at different rates of weight gain. So you do have to kind of be careful of like your rate of weight gain. I've even noticed like in the last few weeks I've been trying to gain, but like it's been pretty stressful. Just like life has been pretty stressful, and I even noticed like at a fairly slow rate of gain, when my abs are getting washed out pretty fast, which is not the best. But I don't really care too much at the moment. Like home training and everything, it's just not ideal. Like with limited equipment. But yeah, I think for like people who are just like maybe non-competitive and they want to be in striking distance, or they want to just be generally fit and healthy. Like I think when I'm like older and I stop competing, I'm not going to be like bulking and cutting. I'm going to
Oh
try
yeah.
and maintain a relatively healthy physique. Like I don't think, I know that there's aspects of unhealthiness to all sports. I've often heard the term like where competition starts, health ends, which not always the case, but it makes sense. But you know, gaining weight when you're already like I'm already like 209 pounds, like gaining weight on top of that is like it's not really healthy, you know, for my blood pressure or you know
Oh.
just overall health markers. So I think for people who are just trying to like be healthy and gain a bit of muscle, it's probably worth maybe sacrificing a little bit of like like it's hard to quantify how much extra progress you'll make by getting into that range where your sweet spot is versus maybe staying a little bit lower. I think Eric might have mentioned it before, like he actually feels better at a heavier body weight, but it's just too heavy.
Hmm. No, and I didn't Eric. I believe that study also showed. I think it was Eric that mentioned that. I mean, muscle gain is not linear, so it doesn't always show up on the scale, and it doesn't occur weekly
Yeah.
or overnight. And I don't believe if he compared it to recomping, but he has noticed that gaining weight might not actually be necessary or needed
Hmm.
to gaining muscle. Um, I with the regards to getting older. I mean, there comes a certain time where even that extra weight might be a little bit too much on the body. And then the constant, fluctuating up and down of weight uh, could screw up blood work, blood pressure, etc. And I would just rather be kind of fit, active, and healthy. In all honesty,
Yeah.
maybe
So
not
what?
Marshall Johnson or Jeff
Yeah.
Alberts, but
Yeah. So what do you feel like when you compare like how do you know when you're below that range? I guess that would be a question that a lot of people have. Like they might maybe wondering like, am I in that range of like my optimal zone for building muscle? And like for me, I think one strategy I think to help ease that burden, I guess, for people who have been attached to a look is like focusing on under parameters that will lead to muscle gain rather than just how the mirror is. So like sleep, performance, energy, mood, libido, all these things. But how do you know or how do you advise someone that's like below that range and say like if they're wondering, am I, you know, do I need to push up my body fat in order to make better progress or am I kind of already in that zone?
I think when you're rushing through your workout to get to your post workout meal is a
Yeah.
pretty big indicator. Um, I noticed some of the markers and things that I noticed are when sleep starts getting disturbed. I'm not able to actually, sleep a full 5, 6, 7 hours. Um, I start noticing movements feeling a bit off in terms of leverages. That could be a pretty big indicator that body fat level is decreased past your optimal set point. Um, Again, food focus when food starts becoming a little bit more important than daily activities, and you're a bit more mindful of crap like when's the last time that I ate, kind of getting hungry. um,
Yeah.
when you start becoming a little bit over reliant on stimulants, so caffeine, in order to kind of get through the day. um, let's see, uh, libido, I would say, but libido's kind of been like a for most for my I haven't had issues with that in a while, but I have noticed with some clients when that starts to drop as well. That could be an indication that things might be a little bit lower than they should be at the moment. Uh, tr- and then I would the usual training performance and recovery when
Yeah.
fatigue is higher than it normally would be during your mesocycle.
Yeah. I think yeah the key one that I think is because like sleep can be bad. It's like literally I slept like 0 hours last night for some reason, but like it's not because I need to get more get more body fat. Um Probably because I have too much body fat, um but I think food focus is definitely one where you can kind of make it clear. Like, it's hard to say because some people are just like they're too ingrained in macros and trying to use their but when you start to see people like starting the day off with their macros as if it's like, I know this is an analogy people see on social media, but like it's like a bank account, and then they're like trying to figure out what's the perfect kind of high protein, low fat, low carb cake they can make for breakfast, and then they do the same thing for lunch, and you're just over obsessing. Whereas like today I was really busy, so I actually just had, it's not ideal, but I had a shake for breakfast with some oats, and then I had a shake for lunch with a sandwich because I was really busy and I didn't have any food. But like if I was food focused, I would be like thinking about it all day, and I would be like trying to volumize the crap out of that and see how much food I could fit in. Whereas they're the only two things I've eaten today, and it's 25 to 6. So like I'm not food focused, but you do get people who are are not anywhere near a show, but they do over obsess about trying to make the perfect meals. And that's why I heard something, I can't remember where I heard it before, but it's like if you spend more than like 10 seconds thinking about what you're going to eat for that meal, just have a bro meal. Like just bro it up instead
Bingo.
of trying. Yeah. So I think food focus is one that's a big indicator. Obviously performance as well, but like things like sleep can be affected through stress as well. So yeah, that's for me it's not been an issue, but it's definitely been an issue for some clients.
Hmm. I had the same meals today too. I mean, I had whey and orange juice and then whey and a fiber brownie, so I'm not too far off. But
Yeah, I didn't think whey mixed well with orange juice.
it mixes great with Gatorade powder though.
Oh really? That's
No,
your go-to that's your go-to intro workout, right?
that is my go-to. That and a teaspoon of sea salt.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up, man, how do we find like the range for like is it just about trying to assess these various things, and then like what do you recommend like people try and push up towards like a higher body fat percentage like visually, or a body weight goal, and then come back down? Like what do you recommend?
I think it takes a lot of trial and error, to be honest. There's no like uh perfect way that I can go about telling somebody to find, their settling point, because it is going to differ. I think if they push their body weight up, kind of assess how they feel at that weight, and then just allow their body to kind of uh, come back down and just normalize, and then kind of take note of how they feel there. And if performance and everything that we've discussed, if everything is, a positive, I think they've found kind of their ideal targeted off-season body weight.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that also, it does depend if that person is tracking their macros in the off season, or if they take more of an intuitive approach, which that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like definitely trial and error is huge. Even for me, I think like a lot of times after my seasons, I didn't really try and progressively gain weight at all. So like that's almost been the same throughout my lifting career. I didn't like go into a long-term gaining phase other than maybe 2014. So like even this year, I'm actually actively trying to see if it's any additional benefit for me. Maybe it won't be. But like between my last season and or the one before last and the last season, I didn't really gain weight. I just kind of took, let my body weight naturally get to a certain level. I,
Yep.
started open the gym and just like joined CrossFit. God bless me for 12 weeks. Um, well, I still trained in the gym, but I also went to CrossFit in the evenings. And that was it. That was the end of that. But I went and you, you did a 1 rep max deadlift, and then you would come back a month later without doing any deadlifts and try to beat your 1 rep max deadlift.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But they only had bumper plates, so you couldn't probably get like more than 180 on the bar anyway. 180
It looks
kilos.
good. It looks
Yeah.
like it's 600.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this season it's really just a trial and error for me to see if it's going to be any benefit. Maybe it won't, and maybe I'll just get like quite fat, but I think like like the science and stuff is there to kind of guide us, but it's not always going to be end all be all. And like you said, you don't even necessarily have to be in a surplus. It's just making sure that all of those things that we mentioned are like, you know, are like, you know, positive or whatever, and we're not in a deficit where, you know, we're going to affect any kind of anabolic hormones in a negative way. um so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So do you plan to push your body weight up over the next while, or do you just plan to hang around this body weight and progressively train?
I'm just going. I haven't weighed myself in a month plus, actually. Um, so I'm gonna kind of just eat according to my body's feedback, and most likely just hover between where I'm at from where I previously was. I would say I'm around like 170, 175 at the moment. I don't really have that much of an appetite when I do get kind of deeper into the off seasons. So I
Mm.
do feel like that's why it naturally just settles there. But if I do start seeing training dip and recovery dip, I'll make a more conscious effort of actually eating more.
Yeah, I think the appetite is definitely an indicator of perhaps you getting to the higher end of your set point, because I definitely noticed that. Whereas like I
Yep.
think I was eating maybe 2,500 calories at like 100 kilos, and I wasn't hungry at all, which is nothing. So like that would be like literally I would be starving on that 20 kilos lighter, and like at like 175 pounds I'd be starving. But I think there's a question of, just because the end of your higher end of your set point doesn't mean that you can, you know, you don't need to push through that to continue to facilitate muscle gain. Because I know like very skinny or very lean guys that I would work with, they actually will hit that ceiling pretty fast. But you can tell that they're not at their genetic limit of muscle gain, but yet they've got no appetite whatsoever. So it's for some, you may actually need to push above your set point, especially if it's quite lean or you haven't got much muscle maybe.
No, agreed. And then it becomes tough work at that point. So,
Yeah, yeah. So any final words, man? Where can people find out more about you?
uh, Instagram at bathtub, at ATP Performance on Instagram as well, and ATP Performance LLC.com.
Nice. So we'll let you enjoy the rest of the inauguration, and
Thank you. Yeah.
see you, man.